Well, hello everyone, Philosopher Stoner 666 here, and I am making a video. Yep. So, I always make these videos too late for when the actual season or topic is relevant. This is basically my Halloween video. It's like 2 days after Halloween, but I can never really find the time unless I'm at work to do a video. So yeah, you know what, fuck it, who cares, it's over, but I think it's still relevant, and the subject is Astro Theology. Now, this is a subject that I find very interesting and compelling, even as someone that, as I've said before, I'm an agnostic, atheist, skeptic, and a guy named Jordan Maxwell, he's like the great-grandfather of conspiracy theories. He's the guy behind the crazy conspiracy theory that reptilians and other aliens secretly run the world. So again, we have to be skeptical somewhat of what this guy says, but he also introduced America to a guy named David Icke, who's again another one of these conspiracy researcher, theorist guys that believes the reptilians are in charge. But anyway, so Jordan Maxwell, you can YouTube search it. He does like a 2-hour video on the subject of Astro Theology. So Halloween was upon us, and Halloween is the demarcation point, the halfway point between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. The winter solstice happens December 23rd, and it marks the beginning of winter, the 6 months of the darker half of the year. So you see in Christian theology a lot of emphasis on the dualism, you know, so you have half the year is darkness, little daylight, and then the other half is, you know, summer, spring, that sort of thing. And there's an inherent dualism. You can't have the light without the dark and such, even though some Christian theologians would argue, well, that evil is necessarily just the absence of good. You don't need bad to have the good. I would agree with that more. But anyway, so there's this sort of pagan dualism to the whole thing. And like every year, like clockwork, it happens. So the days get shorter, everything starts dying, then you have Halloween, which is, like I said, the beginning of winter, and then Christmas, that you have the winter solstice, and then what happens on Christmas? Well, there is a literal resurrection. And I would take it that God, in this case, is the sun in the sky. The literal sun in the sky is the Son of God. That in Christianity, it's all allegories and metaphors for the literal sun in the sky. So on December the 25th, you can actually see that the sun has risen from the sky, that the days are getting longer, that the sun is returning once again to the northern hemisphere. And this theology, this astrotheology, is very important in countries that are in the northern hemisphere. Life depends on it. And you can see in ancient times how, you know, around Halloween time, how really scary it was. You know, there was scarcity of food, crop failure, that sort of thing, possibility of cannibalism, all kinds of stuff that mark a definite, it used to be called Samhain, a satanic holiday, where, you know, there would be dark rituals and human sacrifice, all trying to pray that the sun should return. And like I said, on Christmas, it does return. And then 6 months after Halloween, what happens? The festival of Easter, or Ishtar, the goddess Ishtar, where there is a literal it celebrates the resurrection of this Jesus character, but there is a literal resurrection of the planet. That there is the resurrection of the plants come back to life, the animals return, life resumes as normal. And I would say that it's at least logically plausible that if the sun can resurrect the plant life and the animal life and everything returns to normal, that it is at least logically possible that a human resurrection could happen, although this is yet to be proven. Like I said, I would believe that necessarily the Jesus character is perhaps a fiction. That he's like an allegory, he's a metaphorical story of what the ideal human should be. So anyway, so Jordan Maxwell goes on about this astrotheology concept and basically claims that everything in the Bible is allegory or metaphor to this effect of this, that really the phenomenons it's talking about in the book are phenomenons happening in the astrological cycle of the planet. So like one example, like just off the top of my head, is the whole, there's a part in the Bible where Judas betrays Jesus and he gets bitten by a scorpion. What is this referencing? It's referencing when the sun is dying in the darker half of the year between November and December. It is in the constellation Scorpio. It then also goes right before Christmas into the constellation of Capricorn, which is where you get all the satanic symbolism, the goat, all that sort of thing. He then says, okay, you have 12 apostles in the Bible, you have 12 signs of the zodiac. So for me, this has been, I can at least say now I am somewhat of a pagan, that this phenomenon of Astro Theology is at least somewhat empirical. And it's the only story that's in existence that's happening every year. And so there's this theme of rebirth and resurrection, that life ultimately returns, and there is, in a sense, eternal life. But like I said, it's part death cult, part rebirth renewal cult. And the cycle happens every year. But as David Hume points out, there is no guarantee that the sun will rise tomorrow. There is no logical guarantee that what happens on December 25th is going to happen every year, yet it does. It's been doing this for thousands of years. And again, it is to me almost an act of faith, almost a heroic act, that we can observe this and see that this happens every year, that there's almost some sort of a design to it, as irrational as it seems as if there's a definite point, there's a definite duality, there's a definite message to it, of this whole theme of resurrection and rebirth. So like I said, I'm somewhat more of a pagan these days than an actual atheist or agnostic, and it's something that keeps me going. Anyways, yeah, so I've yammered on quite a bit about this already. I just wanted to make a video on that subject. But like I said, David Hume says, there is no logical guarantee that it is going to happen this year. So it is an act of faith. We think that the sun will return, that the days will get longer, that life will return to normal. And there is really no guarantee of this. Like I said, it is almost an act of faith that it does happen. And you can see why it became such a theologically important day, why there's all stories attached to it, how we personified it with characters and a story and everything for what is just phenomenon happening in the sky. And I'm convinced that this is the truth about this. Explains Christianity to me, and it makes sense. And it's, of all the religions, like I said, it is at least empirical, it is verifiable, there's at least something to it, whereas I see in other religions nothing else like that is offered at all. But again, that's just me. So yeah, that's enough about that subject. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Oh yes, smoke break. Yeah, you know what? I want to talk about some other shit, but I'll save that for another video. This is enough of a video, I guess. Happy Halloween, belated. And yeah, the 6 months of winter. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a rough ride. 6 months of winter. It's very depressing. Year after year, the same clockwork happens exactly like clockwork every year. The same fucking thing. Anyway, Philosopher Stoner 666 out.